I was working in construction at the time, and it was the winter. I'd forgotten to hang my jeans up to dry them out overnight. And so when I got into the bathroom to shower up, I noticed my jeans were still on the floor, soaking wet, covered in sand. So I hung them up, thinking, well, it's probably best to have them steaming hot and wet, and cold and wet. And had a shower, went to shave, and it was snowing, and I really, really didn't want to go. So I sort of started talking to myself in the mirror as I was shaving up. And it was weird, because then I looked a bit deeper in the mirror, and I could see the little catch on the door behind, you know. And I said to myself, look, Dave, there's just me and you in here. The door's locked. We don't have to go to work, you know. But of course we did. I got on the motorbike, and I just started pondering it as I skated my way to the construction site on this motorbike. And that's how it started. It was thinking about how self-involvement turns into narcissism, and how narcissism turns into isolation, and then how isolation turns into self-involvement again, and how what a vicious cycle that can become, you know. So then I just started thinking about different situations where people would ostensibly look like they were doing something, but in fact they were checking their own reflection out. And you'd see it perhaps on Saturday afternoon with people window shopping. Mm-hmm. But half the time they were actually just looking at their own reflection. And then this restaurant had opened, and it was like a big deal at the time because it had got glass tables. And I was like, oh, you could watch yourself while you are eating. So that was what it was about. And of course, when it first came out then in America in the early 80s, everybody gave me knowing winks and said, oh, I know what that one's about then, Dave. But it wasn't that mirror in the bathroom at all. It was the one on the wall, not the one on your knee. And oddly, how songs can become sort of strangely prophetic, though. But certainly at the time of writing, nobody had any money or any access to cocaine in Birmingham in those days.
Welcome to S3X1 Transmissions. My name is Serena Nuance, your hostess, broadcasting studio sessions by Hoodlum Pharaohs.
You're listening to S3X1 Transmissions on Speaker.com. Los Angeles. Los Angeles. Los Angeles.
I had your good charm, innocence and grace. That's right. Please let me borrow your bones, blood and marrow, your innocence, charm and grace. Will someone let me have back my good charm and innocence? It's been a disgrace. I'll put it on all day. I'll put it on all night long. Put it on all day. I put it on all night long. I put it on all day. I put it on all night long. I put it on all day. Have you ever felt like taking a ride? Oh, I need to tell you that there's always another place, another time and another race to run. Things will never be sublime if you're running out of time. Things will never be sublime, especially since you're running out of time. This game is all shame and crying. Oh yeah. This game is all just shame and crying. Amen. I hate to say, this game is all shame and crying. I hate to say, this game is all shame and crying. Don't you feel like lying? Are you blind? May I please borrow your good charm, innocence and grace? I'll put it on, I'll put it on. 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 I'll put it on all night long. I'll put it on all day. I'll put it on all night long. I'll put it on. I'll put it on. I'll put it on. never see you again, or if this is the end. I sit alone by myself, staring out into nothing. Something's got to change. It needs to be rearranged. I can't run these streets alone. You're all I need to find my way back home. Yeah, you're all I need to find my way back home. What you need, boy, is to find your way back home. What you need, boy, is to find your way back home. I run the streets, empty-handed, wondering if I'll ever see you again, or if this is the end. I sit alone by myself, staring out into nothing. Something's got to change. It needs to be rearranged. What you need, boy, is to find your way back home. What you need, boy, is to find your way back home. I run to the streets, empty-handed, wondering if I'll ever see you again. I can't believe what you're telling me. I think I better move on. What you said has frightened me. The look in your eyes telling me lies. I think I better move on. I know what's in your heart is so strong, and you're longing to be free. We both have a need to go beyond, to go beyond. I can't believe what you're telling me. I think I better move on. What you said has frightened me. The look in your eyes telling me lies. I think I better move on. I better move on. What you said has frightened me. The look in your eyes telling me lies. I think I better move on. Yeah, I know what's in your heart is so strong. You're longing to be free. We both have that need to go beyond. To go beyond. you're looking for trouble, I can give you all that I can spare. You better get it on the double. There's a line forming out there.
We began our show earlier with some words from Dave Wakeling about his group The English Beat, and their famous hit, Mirror in the Bathroom, and of course we played that same song he wrote from his group's album I Just Can't Stop It. Later we began our set with music from Hoodlum Pharaoh's free MP3 album release Shame and Crying with the title track from that album, followed by the next 4 songs starting with Empty-Handed, Move On, Where Have All the Strange Birds Flown, and the last tune we just heard was I'm a Villain. Hello, I'm your hostess Serena Nuance, coming to you through the copper in your walls that vibrate and electrify your mind and heart. Thank you for tuning in here on Speaker.com. Evil Nazi villain Dr. Joseph Mengele is alive and well in the form of illegal human experimentation. Today he has a new name, synthetic telepathy. How many more victims will there be until it's your turn? Here's some food for thought, my friends. Please listen. The article I am about to read in part from can be found on blogspot.com. Its title reads, Hearing Voices, Schizophrenia or Artificial Telepathy, Thought Reading at a Distance, by a Machine, Voices Being Beamed into the Head by Satellite, Innocent Victims Enduring Ritual Abuse by Thugs Working for the Military, the NSA, or the CIA. It all sounds too crazy and sick to be true. It's far easier to believe that people who hear voices are exactly what they seem to be, whackers. In fact, hearing voices remains a classic symptom of schizophrenia, as defined by most textbooks. Yet a growing body of literature, written by reputable journalists and scientists, gives clear evidence that such technology does exist. See, for example, the books on mind control technology at this excellent website. Simply Google MCRAIS, the Mind Control and Ritual Abuse Information Service. I will read a bit further for those that care. Those who doubt that agents of the US government engage in the torture or ritual abuse of American citizens would also do well to read the hundreds of testimonials given by survivors of past experiments. For example, Dozens of speeches have been given by survivors at the SMART Ritual Abuse and Mind Control conferences between 1999 and 2006. Transcripts are available on the web. Simply Google this set of words: Smart Ritual Abuse and Mind Control transcripts. Clearly, there is some serious abuse going on. But voice hearers, see Monday, even among mind control victims, they are not normal. Indeed, voice hearers face a great hurdle. They must convince skeptics that exotic technologies exist that allow machines to read thoughts. They must prove that voices are being beamed into their heads. They must warn the world of a dangerous new technology that may rape the privacy of every man, woman and child on the planet. And they've got to do it all without making people laugh them off the stage. Please keep this in mind, dear caring people of the world. From day one, the story of the human race has been about struggle, survival and most importantly forging ahead towards a better society. Let's not let the selfish powermongers of our world set back human society to the dark ages, an age when seeking and documenting the truth was a crime punishable by death. Let's not let today's cruel wealthy toffs and their cowardly highwaymen push our human race back 937 years. A time when our world was believed to be flat and made stable, set on the top of a giant tortoise shell. It's the 21st century, we can do much better than that. Thank you for listening. I am Serena Nuance, your host, courageously coming to you through the copper in the walls that vibrate your mind. S3X1 Broadcast Transmissions.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. That's easy for you to say, but I'm in the armpit of nowhere. Yeah, well, I'm meeting some guy who says he has the latest thing in pop music. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Escapism, I quote from Wikipedia for a practical definition. Escapism is mental diversion by means of entertainment or recreation, as in escape or dissociation from the perceived unpleasant, boring, arduous, scary, or banal aspects of daily life. It can also be used as a term to define the actions people take to help relieve persisting feelings of depression or general sadness. Freud considered a quota of escapist fantasy a necessary element in the life of humans. They cannot subsist on the scanty satisfaction they can extort from reality. We simply cannot do without auxiliary constructions, Theodore Fontaine once said. His followers saw rest and wish fulfillment in small measures as useful tools in adjusting to traumatic upset, while later psychologists have highlighted the role of vicarious distractions in shifting unwanted moods, especially anger and sadness. However, if permanent residence is taken up in some such psychic retreats, the results will often be negative and even pathological. Drugs cause some forms of escapism, which can occur when certain mind-altering drugs are taken, which make the participant forget the reality of where they are or what they are meant to be doing. Today's rant, let's have a little chat about fascism just to make sure that we are all on the same page together. Let's begin with a refresher. The 14 points of fascism. 1. Powerful and continuing expressions of nationalism. 2. Disdain for the importance of human rights. 3. Identification of enemies using lies and slander to use a person as a scapegoat for a unifying cause. 4. The supremacy of the military or militarism. Militant actions. 5. Rampant sexism, male or female. 6. A controlled mass media. 7. Obsession with national security. 8. Religion and ruling elite tied together. 9. Power of corporations protected against justice. 10. Power of labor suppressed or eliminated. 11. Disdain and suppression of intellectuals in the arts. 12. Obsession with crime and punishment. 13. Rampant cronyism and corruption. 14. Fraudulent democracy. Do these things seem familiar to anyone? They should, because they are all practiced and maintained here, socially in different forms, most clandestine and informal. If you practice a few, 1 or 2 of these hideous points, the world at large isn't going to care much, and I wouldn't acknowledge this ugly topic. There are those, however, that practice all 13 points rigorously, and some only 9 or 10, or less, and won't go further because they are supposed to be proud and against fascism as, quote, true patriots, unquote, of justice and freedom. I believe that wealthy, healthy, bold, good old-fashioned capitalism should be enough to scare these control addicts back to the Spanish graveyards of the 1930s, where they had won a victory for a time, only after countless lives had been doled out in exchange for useless words on marble plaques and statues. Included on these sacred, valued salutations are all the things that account for, but cannot replace, the cost in human lives lost, and the bitter evil wrought upon our world, as a theme for the 20th century. Countless millions have given their lives to stop this darkness that still manages to lure the misguided control freaks out into the open for another round of good versus evil. I wasn't planning on stopping it, that's not what I had in mind. How could I? Am no one, just a man. However, I am here to remind us that if you condone or practice these things against the grain, then please don't complain when your boss of 18 years fires you, against all company policies and government laws, and you lose everything you ever owned. Yes, please refrain from complaining about the horrible brain tumor the doctors find in your head will eventually eat you alive. Don't complain when your girlfriend or wife of many years is forced to tell you finally that you must have hepatitis C, just like her and her lover, the true father of your only child. Most of all, don't complain when you pee in your pants and knickers, when the loud bomb shells burst near you and consume your life slowly. Yes, it begins in your once peaceful neighborhood, making your head sore, shocked and sore vexed with blind sight. You become painfully constipated because your body is too stunned to function normally, so stunned your small and large intestines are much too strained and tightened for you to find any relief, month after month, year after year, like those poor devils living in Lebanon and Palestine. Then, when you finally have a bowel movement, it will all pour out at once, leaving your hindside bum aching, and the stench from your decaying blood and waste will draw your enemies, thus, into your midst to finally put an end to you and your self-made garbage once and for all. In effect, you get what's deserved, considering your education, company, and lifestyle. If something isn't right, it's your fault, not mine, or others like myself. Please acknowledge to yourself this is how it usually ends up for those that followed fascist ideals throughout history. History should have scared you, and kept you scared. However, you earned this evil through natural causation, or as some say, karma. You took the side of fascism, not out of ignorance, or a hopeless need for a better world, but out of greed and selfish cruelty against others. Fear God, we share with each other as planned, so share this as well. The blameless can say a prayer for themselves. You cannot. This voicing wasn't meant for everyone, of course. Those who it applies to know who they are, and were already well aware of the things I've mentioned. This was just a reminder. S3X1 Transmissions. You're listening to S3X1 Transmissions on Speaker.com Internet Radio, playing select sessions by Los Angeles' very own Hoodlum Pharaohs.
Done all I can, and this is where it stands. You haven't done a thing to bring me back to where I belong. Yeah, when things went wrong, you lied and betrayed my trust. I have no confidence in what you're worth on this earth. I've done all I can to tell you what's wrong. Do you know your value of worth on this earth? Well, I tell you what I can, that 1 and 1 equals 1. But 2 and 2 equals you and I and you. So you're very, very, very selfish. So very, very, very selfish. Done all I can, and this is where it stands. You haven't done a thing to bring me back to where I belong. When things went wrong, you lied and betrayed my trust. I have no confidence in what you're worth on this earth. I've done all I can to tell you what's wrong. Do you know your value of worth on this earth? Well, I tell you what I can, that 1 and 1 equals 1. But 2 and 2 equals you and I and you. You're so very, very, very selfish. Yeah, so very, very selfish. My voice is just a faint echo in the darkness. glow. My light is growing weaker. These tunnels are growing deeper. I think I'll sit here and let my light glow. My light glow. My light glow. I think I'll lay in the darkness and let my breath flow. My breath flow. My breath flow. My breath flow. I'm traveling deep. I'm traveling deep. I'm traveling deep. Far below. Far below. Far below. Into a place called the Moho.
Hello, I'm your hostess Serena Nuance, coming to you through the copper in your walls that vibrate and electrify your mind and heart. Thank you for tuning in here on Speaker.com.
Some promise, we didn't have much time. So excited with the others, booked at the best place around. But AB with the flare gun burned the place to the ground. On the water, a fire in the sky. Smoke on the water. The recording died with an awful sound. His father's money was running out, spent burning bridges to the ground. And when it was over, I had to find another place. But this time isn't running out and gone for good without a trace. It was empty, cold and bare, with loud trucks rolling sounds outside, recording better music there. With no red lights and only friends, making the woofers sweat. No matter what you get out of this, I know I can never forget. On the water, a fire in the sky. Smoke on the water. As bright as day, and the darkest night for me, as far as I can see. Well, this should be my very last game of roulette, or there's nothing for me. Or this could be my very last game of roulette. my very last game of roulette. My very last game. No regrets, my very last game.
This next subtopic about escapism is also from the online encyclopedia, Wikipedia, and is about escapism, dangerous within the group setting. I quote, "Groupthink is a psychological phenomenon that occurs within a group of people, in which the desire for harmony or conformity in the group results in an irrational or dysfunctional decision-making outcome. Symptoms: illusions of invulnerability creating excessive optimism and encouraging risk-taking, unquestioned belief in the morality of the group, causing members to ignore the consequences of their actions, closed-mindedness rationalizing warnings that might challenge the group's assumptions, stereotyping those who are opposed to the group as weak, evil, biased, spiteful, impotent, or stupid, pressures toward uniformity, self-censorship of ideas that deviate from the apparent group consensus, illusions of unanimity among group members, silence is viewed as agreement, direct pressure to conform placed on any member who questions the group, couched in terms of disloyalty, minduets, self-appointed members who shield the group from dissenting information, causes high group cohesiveness, de-individuation. Group cohesiveness becomes more important than individual freedom of expression, structural faults, insulation of the group, lack of impartial leadership, lack of norms requiring methodological procedures, homogeneity of members' social backgrounds and ideology, situational context, highly stressful external threats, recent failures, excessive difficulties on the decision-making task, moral dilemmas, prevention as observed by Aldgan Fuller 1993. The groupthink phenomenon seems to rest on a set of unstated and generally restrictive assumptions. The purpose of group problem solving is mainly to improve decision quality. Group problem solving is considered a rational process. Benefits of group problem solving: variety of perspectives, more information about possible alternatives, better decision reliability, dampening of biases, social presence effects. Groupthink prevents these benefits due to structural faults and provocative situational context. Groupthink prevention methods will produce better decisions. An illusion of well-being is presumed to be inherently dysfunctional. Group pressures towards consensus lead to concurrence-seeking tendencies. Example: the attack on Pearl Harbor on the 7th of December, 1941 is a prime example of groupthink. A number of factors such as shared illusions and rationalizations contributed to the lack of precaution taken by naval officers based in Hawaii. The United States had intercepted Japanese messages and they discovered that Japan was arming itself for an offensive attack somewhere in the Pacific. Washington took action by warning officers stationed at Pearl Harbor, but their warning was not taken seriously. They assumed that Japan was taking measures in the event that their embassies and consulates in enemy territories were usurped. The Navy and Army in Pearl Harbor also shared rationalizations about why an attack was unlikely. Some of them included, 85, the Japanese would never dare attempt a full-scale surprise assault against Hawaii because they would realize that it would precipitate an all-out war, which the United States would surely win. The Pacific Fleet concentrated at Pearl Harbor was a major deterrent against air or naval attack. Even if the Japanese were foolhardy to send their carriers to attack us, the United States, we could certainly detect and destroy them in plenty of time. No warships anchored in the shallow water of Pearl Harbor could ever be sunk by torpedo bombs launched from enemy aircraft. Corporate world: in the corporate world, ineffective and suboptimal group decision-making can negatively affect the health of a company and cause a considerable amount of monetary loss. Hello, I'm your hostess Serena Nuance, coming to you through the copper in your walls that vibrate and electrify your mind and heart. Thank you for tuning in here on Speaker.com.
Hey, you! Who, me, Officer Krupke? Yeah, you! Give me one good reason for not dragging you down to the station house, you punk!
Dear kindly Sergeant Krupke, you gotta understand, it's just our bringing upkeep that gets us out of hand. Our mothers all are junkies, our fathers.
Is your life in a fix, and you need advice from a professional because you're in a spot of trouble that you can't handle on your own lately? Go to eanswers.com. Legal, real experts, real answers, real fast. eanswers.com. You're listening to S3X1 Transmissions on Speaker.com Internet Radio, playing select sessions by Los Angeles' very own Hoodlum Pharaohs. Alright, we started this last set with a song from the album called Selfish, followed by 10 Miles Below, the group's rendition of Deep Purple's famous hit Smoke on the Water, a rather daring cut some have said, followed by Roulette, and we of course closed the set with an instrumental titled Devon Patrol. Looks like our time is up. Thanks for tuning in. Please have a positive week, but if by fate you find yourself in a spot of trouble, remember, There are many old pilots, there are many bold pilots, yet there are only a very scant few old bold pilots left, so take good care.